All right. First off, some context. The day previous to this video being released, I put out a video called Barbarian Camps Zoc Barb Units. And this video and sort of the discussions surrounding it sparked a whole bunch of questions from other people and from myself about how exactly barbarians work. What are the mechanics that underlie how they act, how they move, how they attack? I think a lot of people assumed it was random or semi-random. After some extensive testing, I can conclude this is definitively not the case. Barbs are not probabilistic, they are deterministic. You can 100% exactly predict how they will move and react with perfect information. If you have perfect information, I mean. There is, in their code, I would assume, I haven't actually looked at the code myself, but through testing, this just has to be the case. There is a specific way in which they are programmed to act and react that is predictable, consistent, deterministic. What that means is that given the same initial settings, given the same initial conditions, barbarians will act the same way every time. So for example, I've got a little initial scenario here. These two spears can see each other. Where was this barb going to move? Feel free to guess. Take a guess. Because I can tell you, I can guarantee you, if you set this up, I've got in-game editor here. If you set this up the exact same way, every time this barb is going to move to the exact same tile. Take a wild guess. Is it going to be the hill, the bison, the stone, the forest, the jade? What are these two tiles? Whatever. Take a quick look. Maybe it's this maze. Maybe it's this hill. Who knows? Well, I know, because I understand how barbs work, and the idea is at the end of this video, you will too. Just as a sort of disclaimer, I am playing with Lek mod, which is a community balance mod for multiplayer. This is what most multiplayer lobbies use, either Lek mod or some variation of it, because it just makes multiplayer much more balanced and fun. That's the long and short of it. The only differences in the barbarian mechanics between Lek mod and vanilla Civ 5 relates to how barbs spawn in multiplayer. So in multiplayer, in vanilla, barbs can spawn and move the same turn, which is very frustrating because it means that your settlers or workers or whatever can be 3 tiles away from a barb camp and still randomly get killed by one. So that's not the case, but aside from that, barbs act more or less the same as they do in single player, in vanilla single player. So you can take the lessons from this video and apply them to vanilla single player or to presumably other mods like Vox Populi. The barbs work the same. That's yeah, these sort of principles, these core principles for how barbarians act should be universal within Civ 5. As far as I'm aware, most mods do not alter barbarian behavior at all. And in fact, it seems like nobody actually understood these elements of barbarian behavior before this. I've done some light Googling. There seems to essentially be a lot of guesswork, but no actual understanding as to how barbs work. Well, that's over now. I have a comprehensive and I believe exhaustive framework for barbarian decision making. That means that if you could see the whole map with perfect information, at any given turn you can predict exactly how every barbarian on the map will act. Okay, so where's this barb gonna move? I know. Do you know? Let's see. Okay, it moved to the forest. Now, just to prove a point, I'm going to remove that barb, put it right back where it was before, and do this again. Where's it gonna move? Oh, it moved to the forest again. This time, I'm going to remove the barb. I'm going to put another unit right here. Scout. Actually, I'm going to put a spearman just so that people don't think that that's affecting the outcome. I'm going to put another barb spearman here. Now where does the barb move? Okay. There is something at work here. This is what this video, in short, is going to try to explain. One of the core hypotheses people have with respect to barbarian actions is they prefer to take civilian units rather than kill military units. That one can be pretty easily tested. So I've got this scout. He's scouting. Oh no, he's run into a pikeman. He survives. Barely. 99 health. Or 1 health. Maybe I can bait the pikeman with this worker. Maybe I can get him to take the worker instead of the scout. What happens? No, it kills the scout. This is not a sort of rigged test. You can do this in any sort of scenario. It's not dependent on tile counting, which, as a spoiler alert, comes up in a lot of this. You can run this any way you want. The barbarians will always prefer to kill a military unit than capture a civilian unit. You might think, oh, it's because it was a worker and not a settler. So let's delete this. Oh, that's not deleting. Let's get a settler instead. And I'll even upgrade to warrior. And I'll give the barbarians an infantry. Now what will happen? Kills the military unit again. Maybe you think, oh, it has to do with placement. If I had put the warrior on a higher number tile, then it would have gone after the settler. Nope, it always kills the military unit. That seems to be a fairly clear principle that the AI is guided by. Barbarians always prefer to kill a military unit to capturing a civilian unit. Okay, but what about a scenario where a barb can attack but not kill a military unit versus capturing a civilian unit? I think people intuitively know what's going to happen here, right? The barb takes the settler. Okay. But what about, is there any preference for barbs between workers and settlers? Because this is something a lot of people think, I believe, that barbs have a specific preference for settlers. Specifically, in the sort of the initial discussions leading into this video, that was one of the assertions. That barbs, when they have the choice, will take settlers over workers. So let's see, we've got a worker here, we've got a settler. Which one does the barb take? Okay, it takes the settler. Does that confirm our hypothesis? Let's swap the positions of the scout and the settler. Does it still take the settler? No, this time it moves to the same tile as before and takes the worker. So that suggests that barbarians don't actually have a preference for civilian units. Rather, they have a preference for certain tiles. So here's another scenario. This barbarian can win a victory. What I mean by that is a victory. If you scroll over an enemy unit, it'll tell you what the possible outcome of an attack is, right? So if I attack this warrior, I have a chance of winning a minor victory. It's somewhat probabilistic here. The damages depend on dice rolls. But likewise, this barbarian warrior can win a victory against any of these 3 scouts I've got here. There's the possibility for it to do more damage than it takes on any of these 3 scouts. So which of the 3 will it attack? I floated this as a hypothetical to people, and pretty much everyone agreed the warrior was going to attack this scout. It's got the fewest combat defenses, it's not fortified, it's on flat terrain, it has no promos. Whereas this scout, for example, is across a river and fortified. This scout is across a river, fortified, with flank support on a hill. So it's got 4 defensive bonuses here. In order of damage, the warrior would do most damage to this unit, then this unit, and then the least damage to this unit. So which unit is the warrior going to attack? It attacks across the river into the fortified hill scout. It actually takes more damage in this case than it gave. So why did that happen? Clearly, the warrior wasn't making a choice to attack based on maximizing its damage. There was some other hypothetical at work. By comparison, let's change up some of the units here. Let's give myself a pikeman. Let's put my scout where it was before, but this time let's put a pikeman where the scout that I got attacked was. Do another barb warrior. Now, which one will it attack? I'll even unfortify this pike. So, same situation as before, except I've replaced this scout with a pikeman. Now, which one will it attack? Oh, it attacks this scout this time. What's changed? So I think what has changed is that the warrior knows it can win a victory against this scout. It knows it can't win a victory against this pikeman. So when it's given the option between winning a victory, the potential of winning a victory, I should say, versus not winning a victory, the warrior will choose to attack the unit which it can win a victory against. But what about for ranged units? When you have a ranged unit and you shoot an enemy unit, it does damage and takes no damage. So that's technically always a victory. So how does the AI determine what units to shoot with ranged units? I've got a spearman here, 11 strength. I've got an XCOM here, 100 strength. Makes sense this would shoot the spear. Almost 10 times the combat strength on the XCOM. Shoots the spear, makes sense. I'll have them swap positions. Shoots the spear again. Okay, that seems to make sense. Now, let's replace this with a fresh spear. See what happens. Oh, this time the XCOM gets shot. Let's have him swap. XCOM gets shot again. So clearly, combat strength does not have anything to do with it. Because this XCOM, even, with its 98 hit points, it's 2 lost hit points, it's still 10 times the combat strength of the spearman. How it actually works is that an AI unit, regardless of whether it's a ranged unit or a melee unit, will prefer to attack the unit with the lowest HP. Doesn't matter about effective combat strength. as long as it doesn't think it can kill a unit, it will instead pick the unit with the lowest HP. So let's for example, let's instead of this instead of that composite bow, I'll put a machine gun. So now this machine gun thinks it can kill the settler, or it can kill the spearman. So it shoots at the spearman, kills it, and then puts a second shot into the XCOM. So now, if I... Oh, I've even got an archer there. So now if I put another XCOM here, this machine gun will target this wounded unit. It doesn't matter. I could even put, like, say, a weaker unit, like an infantry. At 91 hit points, it'll still target the unit with less HP. Actually, no, it'll kill this warrior because Patricuti came in to take the hit. This time, it'll shoot the XCOM because it's wounded. So there's a clear priority here. When units are wounded, it'll pick the wounded unit. But when all units have the same HP, there's some other element at play here. So, here's a scenario where I've got 4 scouts that this barb spearman can attack. And once again, because barbs are deterministic, it will choose the same barb. It will choose the same scout to attack every single time. Could you take a guess as to what it is? It's this bottom left scout. Now, there's actually a reason for this. I've hinted, it has to do with tile numbering. This might blow people's minds, or maybe it won't. One of the useful things about in-game editor that I'm using here is that it shows you every single tile has a number that is coordinates. So this tile that got attacked was 4116. That means it's 41 longitude, 16 latitude. The 00 tile is right here. This is the first tile of the map generation, and this map is 58 tiles wide and 52 tiles top to bottom. That's 00. Up here is 57, 51, which, because it starts at 0, that's the 58th tile to the east, the 52nd tile to the north. And so the simple determination, when a barb has all of these units it can attack, it can't kill any of them, it can win a victory against any of them. Which one does it pick? It picks the lowest numbered tile. So you can see what the lowest number is by just adding the coordinates together. So 41 and 16, that's tile, the value of the tile is 57. This is 4117. The value of this tile is 58. The value of this tile, 59. The value of this tile, 60. So I can show you it off again if I put a bunch of workers here. So that's tile. That tile has a value of 58. This tile has a value of 59. This tile has a value of 60. Which one is the spearman going to take? It's going to take the lowest numbered tile. Now, what happens in terms of a tiebreak? Because, for example, this is 4115, so that adds up to 56. This is 40. That's 4016 right there. That also adds up to 46. These are both of these add up to 46. So in this case, which one would the spear take? I actually have to zock this one. There seems to be a tiebreak mechanic where it interprets the more southern, so to speak, tile as lower in value. And this is going to come back later for pathing. So that is essentially the sort of framework for how barbs choose where to attack. They will kill a unit if they can. They will kill a military unit in preference to a civilian unit. If it can't kill a unit, but can win a victory, it will attack the lowest HP unit. If all the units it can win a victory against are the same HP, it will attack the unit on the lowest numbered tile, with the tiebreak going to the more southern tile. So that is how that is determined. It doesn't have to do with combat strength. It doesn't have to do with workers or settlers. It doesn't have to do with sort of specifics to the unit except for its HP and whether it's military or civilian. But there's a sort of a clear decision tree, so to speak, that each barb makes when it comes to choosing what to target. So what happens with barb units that can't or don't think they can win a victory? So this spear here can see my pike. It's not going to smash into my pike. It's just going to commit suicide. So what does it do instead? Now, there is actually a system for this. And I think it's intuitive for people who have played a lot of Civ because it's something that's like a very frustrating thing that happens. You may not realize that it's actually a coherent, sort of functional, deliberate thing by the AI, but that's what happens. Is the barbs, when they can't just smash into a unit, they try to get on the high side of a unit. And what I mean by the high side is I mean the highest value tile adjacent to a unit. So you can see on IGE here, my pikeman is on the 3714 hex. So that's value 51, 3715, 3814, those are value 52. So the barb wants to get onto these tiles. And specifically it wants to get on this tile because it considers, the game considers the more northern of the two tiles with the same value to be the higher value one. So this barb wants to get on that tile. Now, there's a catch. This barb also wants to get on that tile. And that's because barb units share vision like a player's units share vision. This barb can see this unit just like this barb can see this unit. And the way this works is that barbs move towards the enemy military unit or city that is closest to them, that is in their shared vision. So because this barb can see this unit, but it can't see Islamabad and it can't see Mecca, I'm not talking about the borders of the city, I'm talking about the city itself. It will move towards this floodplains tile to try and get on the high side of this unit. Confusing? Sort of, but I think when you see it in action, you'll recognize the pattern of it. So this barb wants to get here, it will move onto this floodplains tile, then onto this floodplains tile. This barb wants to get onto the floodplains tile, so it'll make its way over. And unless Islamabad, shoots a worker out or shoots an archer out, it shouldn't be interrupted. So now that this spear is on this highest value tile adjacent to my pike, it'll now move on to this tile because it is an equally high value tile. Or rather, it's the next most highest value tile. Barbs generally don't like to stay at a position. Sometimes they will. If this, for example, if this tile was a mountain, this barb would just stay still because it's on the highest value tile. And presently, I would expect there will be more units. Yep, okay, here come more. I spawned more units up here. And because these units also share the line of sight with these units, they've moved down because this was the closest unit that they could see. So if you ever feel like barbs are just like, you've got a homing device on your units and all the barbs are coming towards them in a flood, well, that's might be because that's actually how it works. Barbs move towards the nearest enemy military unit or city that they can see and try to get on the highest value adjacent tiles to them. Funky? Yep, pretty funky. I'm just going to remove these units for a second. I'm going to spawn in another spear here. And I'll show a sort of practical sense, because I think a lot of people have this experience when they're escorting settlers or they're trying to move units, getting a worker back, stuff like that. So this wants to get on this floodplains tile. So it moves there. So say I want to retreat. Well, I try and move there, but now I haven't done any good because this barb now wants to get on this wine tile. Oh, try and retreat again. But now this barb wants to get on this tile, so it'll move onto the swamp. So how I actually shake this barb is I've got to move out of its sight. If I move onto this cattle, it'll move onto this forest. If I move onto the hill, it'll move onto the cattle. So I've got to move back out of its sight, and now it no longer sees me. There's no other barb that it's sharing vision with. So now there's presumably some other unit or city that barbs elsewhere sees, and it'll now move towards that instead. So it's moved up this time, so it's not moved towards my unit. I have, in paint, very hastily drawn a sort of decision tree which explains the exact sequence of decisions that a barb makes in preference. So its number one preference is to kill a military unit, then to capture a civilian unit. If it can't kill units, but can win a victory, it attacks the lowest HP unit. If all the units are the same HP, it attacks the unit on the lowest numbered tile. If it can't win a victory, it tries to move to the high side of the nearest enemy unit within the collective vision of the barbs. And finally, I have just 2 more notes here. One is that, and this was sort of the genesis of all these things, is that barbs, of course, zock each other. It's not the barb camps that zock, it's barbarian units themselves. And the second thing to note is that barb activation goes from lowest tile. So 2 final notes, and it's kind of ironic because these were the things that sort of launched this whole thing. First of all is that barbs activate from lowest tile to highest. That is to say, in the sequence of moves that the barbarian AI does, it starts with the lowest numbered barbs. So that is starting from the 0, and moving up to the highest. So it's barbs on this island that will move first. So that's at 2-9. That's at 4-10. That's 1-11. So the sequence, it'll be this barb first, then this barb, then this barb. Because that's on a tile valued 11. That's on tile valued 12. That's on a tile valued 14. And the other thing is that barbs zock themselves. I had done the video yesterday assuming that it was the barb camps. It's not. It's the barbs themselves. There's going to be a simple demonstration here. Making sure Islamabad's not going to mess this up for me. You can see I've got 2 workers here that the barbs can take. If you were a player, you'd move this barb first, and then this barb, but that's not how the AI will work. The AI is going to move this barb first because it's on a lower value tile. It'll grab this worker, and that will zock this worker and prevent it from taking. It'll zock this spearman rather and prevent it from taking. See, like that. So that spearman move there prevented this spearman from taking this unit. And so because it couldn't, it's presumably wandering to the nearest military unit that's in its collective vision. This isn't a total barbarian guide because I haven't touched on barb camps, which are semi-random, and I don't really want to get into them, or I wouldn't without actually looking into the code and seeing how it works. But now you should have a better understanding how exactly barbs work, how they function, how you can use that to your advantage. Because it's not random, it's deterministic. There are sort of a chain, a sequence of decisions that a barb will go through on every given turn to decide what it does. You can use that to your advantage. I hope this helped. If you have if you have questions, you have ideas, if you have theories, if you have hypotheses, leave them in the comments.